NASCAR fires back at Kevin Harvick conspiracy theories. Kevin Harvick, Rodney Childers, and a legion of fans have a major beef with NASCAR's judgment on Kevin Harvick's Talladega Next Gen car, which failed post-race tech. Because of this, the team was penalized 100 owner points, 100 driver points, and crew chief Rodney Childers was suspended for 4 races and fined $100,000. Now, because of the fact that Kevin Harvick has been one of the loudest and most outspoken critics of NASCAR as of late, and has backtracked on none of his statements, unlike the other outspoken driver, Denny Hamlin, sarcastic or not, that has drawn even more attention to this penalty. So much so, in fact, that NASCAR President Steve Phelps has responded to it by saying this to Jenna Fryer of the Associated Press. And he said, "I would say that is ridiculous," in response to the Kevin Harvick conspiracy theories. No one has a vendetta against Kevin Harvick or Rodney or anyone at Stewart-Haas Racing. Our guys are very good. They're going to look at it the second time, a third time, to make sure that there is a penalty and the penalty's right. If the 4 team thinks that it's not right, they will file an appeal. Now, what exactly was wrong on this car? A lot of people were speculating that it was the rear clip, which has been the subject of many a NASCAR next-gen controversy and the fact of how stiff it is. But Dave Moody reported that the issue was actually with the rear deck lid of the car, which of course would mean potentially better aerodynamics on the straight. And in the event, or in the need to be objective here and point out objectivity, at the end of the day, I need to say that Stewart-Haas Racing and the 4 team has absolutely bent the rules beyond the breaking point before. They are, in fact, the reason that wins now get taken away from teams that are found to be in serious violation of the rules. Now, that being said, I do think there is some legitimate concern with these conspiracy theories because NASCAR has given everyone a reason to doubt them over really their entire history. But, you know, the actions detrimental to stock car racing thing for the longest time was kind of NASCAR's MO. Like, they do not, it's like the NFL. They tried to be the NFL in more ways than one. Protect the shield. Well, NASCAR was trying to protect those little diagonal lines that they have in their logo. Protect the diagonal lines. So anybody who spoke out negatively about NASCAR to the point where it could be seen as detrimental to stock car racing, they wrote a rule that could be penalized for that. Now, they haven't used that in a long time, but the stink of that rule has certainly permutated. It stuck around for a little while. And in this case, when you see a penalty levied against Kevin Harvick, after Talladega and after all of these things that Kevin Harvick has said about the safety of the next-gen car, rule changes he'd like to see, value of the sport, all these things. Things that are certainly open wounds that NASCAR doesn't like you to stick your finger in and open up further. They would prefer those wounds to heal, even if the scar is going to be really ugly. They would prefer people not talk about it anymore. And so Kevin Harvick, Denny Hamlin, guys like that, talking about that, and in positions in which the majority of NASCAR fans are going to trust what they have to say, I can see what the conspiracy theorists have in mind. But, like I said, I think Steve Phelps does have a little bit of wiggle room here because, yes, this team has generally, in the past, been one of the teams that pushes the limits of the rules. But generally, that's when they're winning races, and at Talladega, they really weren't in contention. So the fact that they were randomly selected, okay, I can see a little bit of concern there. There's no doubt about it. But certainly, NASCAR is definitely aware. There's no doubt that they're not aware at this point of what the drivers are saying. In fact, I think they're acutely aware of it. But I think they also have to be acutely aware of a lot of the conspiracy theories. And if they do tech the 4 car and the 4 car does fail, people are going to say these sort of things. So don't get too upset about it. Speaking of tech, well, maybe not tech, but at least penalties. The National Motorsports Appeal Panel amends the penalty issued to William Byron following his intentional dump under caution of Denny Hamlin at Texas Motor Speedway. They took away the points penalty from William Byron and now have just fined him $100,000, which in Rick Hendrick land, that means absolutely nothing. The points are way more valuable, and they've taken away the teeth of the rule. And I have to tell you, I don't have to tell you on this channel anymore how I feel about intentional wrecking in NASCAR. If you didn't get it the first time I started talking about it after the 2018 Daytona 500, you're never going to get it. The escalation of this has just gotten ridiculous. I'm almost tired talking about it at this point. NASCAR made the right move in penalizing William Byron for this, both in points and money, though the money doesn't, again, matter very much because Rick Hendrick has more money than God. But I think the precedent needs to be set at some point, because if you're crashing guys under the yellow, that is unacceptable. And $100,000 is not going to stop anybody from wrecking someone under the caution if they feel like that's what they got to do. And they have to put a stop to it because, as we know, Kevin Harvick, Denny Hamlin is one of the guys wrecked. The next-gen car right now has a safety issue. So if any crash could hurt a driver. There's 3 drivers out this weekend. First time that's happened in the 21st century for NASCAR. But also under yellows, the whole point they don't race back to the caution anymore is because of safety, is to keep track workers and everybody safe, so you don't have cars unintentionally, intentionally wrecking, whatever you want to call it. You don't want to have cars wrecking under the yellow because people could get hit, people could get hurt, people could get killed, especially track workers. If NASCAR kills a track worker because someone intent wrecked somebody under, that would be worst case scenario. Worst case scenario. And yet NASCAR, judging by this, and again, it's an independent panel of judges, but one of them's a Chevy dealer and one of them's a network TV executive. I don't know. How independent is that appeals panel? I don't know. And how did they determine that $100,000 was a stiffer penalty than a points penalty? Or maybe they didn't. And that's the worst part about it. So yeah, I'm not happy about the way they have decided to choose to penalize, or perhaps in this case not penalize, William Byron. But at this point, I just throw my hands up and say, you get what you deserve. If something bad happens at this point, what else do I have to say? I hope it doesn't happen, but you're playing with fire. And a little bit of IndyCar news. The 14 AJ Foyt car will be driven full-time next year by Santino Ferrucci. Now, at least at this point, it seems like it's going to be a 1-year deal for Santucci, but it could expand to more. And also, it sounds like Dalton Kellett may end up at a third car at AJ Foyt Racing. Benjamin Peterson is the second driver at AJ Foyt Racing. So the 2 full-time drivers right now are Santino Ferrucci and Benjamin Peterson from the Indy Lights Championship. Dalton Kellett is in negotiations with AJ Foyt Racing. They're trying to put a team together to run Kellett. I asked both Santino and Larry Foyt about a few different things. The first thing I asked Santino about was his teammate Benjamin Peterson. And then I also asked Larry Foyt about the Indy 500 and also about his rumored IMSA GTP program that he was supposedly going to do with J.R. Hildebrand and what the status of that is going to be. Here's what they said.
Santino, you mentioned Ben Peterson and your relationship with him. It doesn't sound like there is much of one right now. How much have you guys spoken? Have you guys spoken at all? And how well do you think your personalities are going to match if you have?
I've chatted with him a bit in Indy. I mean, dude, he seems like a good young kid, just very fiery and wants to get in here and start working hard. And look, that's all I can ask for. Someone that just wants to put in the work ethic, that is wanting to make changes and wanting to help and wanting to push the team in the correct direction. I mean, if we have that between 2 drivers, I think we're set, man. But yeah, I have no reasons as to why we won't get along. I mean, we're both young. I'm sure we both like fast cars and driving hard. So not much else to it.
Good stuff. A couple for Larry. Larry, you mentioned that a third car is a possibility if you can put the people together for Dalton Kellett. I would also ask about the status of an Indy 500 entry with J.R. Hildebrand, which seems to have been a tradition of your team for quite a while.
Yes. Yeah. On the JR side, I don't know that we'll run an extra car at the 500. So we just have to see how that shakes out. But at the moment, some of that funding has gone into this program to make sure it was a full-time program. So I think we may just not worry about an extra car at the Speedway this year is kind of the thought. But everything is still open. It's still very early days. So hate to speculate too much, but yeah, that's kind of where it's at.
And kind of spinning off of that, do you have any comment on the rumor that's been going around for quite a while of a Porsche GTP program in IMSA?
Well, that was more tied to JR than us, but we were going to work together on it a little bit. That was definitely something we were working on. So I think it's been pushed back a year, but that's more for JR to answer to. But JR was great. Really enjoyed working with him. Would love to run him if we do run another car. We just have to see how that shakes out. But yeah, so that was he really gelled well with the team. Was a great asset, and that's why we looked at some sports car stuff together. But you'd have to really go to him. But I think that's been pushed back a year.
Good stuff. Thank you very much. Congratulations, Larry and Santino. Thank you very much, Dave.
So I think Santino Ferrucci at AJ Foyt Racing is going to be a great thing for that team. I think it's going to raise the profile of that team. I think it'll raise their performance. Santino Ferrucci has never finished outside the top 10 at the Indy 500, and I have a suspicion that he's not going to break that streak even in an AJ Foyt car. Now, the question is going to be consistency across the season. And also the question is the one that I asked Santino is, how is he going to get along with Benjamin Peterson? Are they going to gel? Are they going to be strong teammates together and both be working in the same direction? That's what we'll have to see. A lot to talk about today and a lot to talk about as things go on. It's the silly season, certainly. Thank you guys so much for watching. Subscribe for more motorsport content. This has been David Landon at YouTube, and I'll see you in the next video.